The community has to move forward, and if it doesn't have people like Jim and Mary Lynn who are willing to appreciate the past but look forward as to how we can be better, a community won't grow. It'll start to shrivel and it'll just fade.
Jim and Mary Lynn have been very good about being deep into the community.
It's a tremendous relationship of service and thinking beyond themselves to family and community and spirituality.
And they definitely are the type of people who don't want to stick out, but they want to be a part of something and join hands with others who are making a difference.
I think for decades, people in Brainerd have recognized that they had a world-class asset flowing through their backyard, and yet it was actually pretty inaccessible for the most part. Many groups had kind of come up with variations on different kinds of plans, and we were able, because of the grant and because of people like Jim and some really committed folks on the Riverfront Committee, we were able to pull things together, and it resulted in the Lyman T. White Park.
That was probably 10 years in the making, with community groups convening, getting together, talking about what could happen there.
If he told me once, he told me 100 times. We need something more than a park bench. Lyman T. White Park is just that culmination of something that's way more than a park bench, and it's bringing people together, providing access to the river.
At one point I was on a committee, but I was just one part of many people. There were 50 or 60 people at least who started out to get that going. The project was put together and basically handed to the city, and the city picked it up, of course, and said, yeah, let's make it go. But it was community involvement. It was citizens that made it go.
Things do not just happen. They happen because people have a vision, people want to serve others and make things better for everybody. And it takes people like Jim and Mary Lynn who think beyond themselves.
When I think of the library, I think of the old quotation of standing on the shoulders of giants. Well, Mary Lynn was a giant as far as the library went.
I started working in a library for 35 cents an hour when I was in 4th grade, and I worked in libraries all the way through, and I got my master's in library science and worked in libraries. Well, then I came to Brainerd, and there were a few deficiencies in the library.
I think she came to town, took one look at that Carnegie Library and thought, that's not going to make it. We can do better. And she started right away.
I asked, how do you get on the library board? And a man said, all we do is decide when to change the screens. Why do you want to be on the board? I thought, I might be in trouble here.
It wasn't like, let's do it next year. It's like, okay, tomorrow, where do you want to go? And when do you want to start talking with groups, which is what we did. I can recall speaking to a bridge group that a woman had. No group was too small to talk to about the library.
We got a bond issue, and the citizens of Brainerd passed it, and we have a new library. That new library is now 40 years old, but that was my first involvement.
I'd love to work with her again. Mary Lynn, I'll work with you again.
Most people don't even know where East Timor is. It's between Indonesia and Australia, kind of. But a fellow I had gone to medical school with had a free clinic for the poor. But his people didn't know how to use ultrasound for obstetrics. So I went there, Mary Lynn and I spent a couple weeks. She taught English, and I taught people how to do basic ultrasound. In the meantime, we got to travel, and we got to see things and experience what poor people are going through. And I got involved first in Africa, in Tanzania, because there was a radiologist from Minnesota, and when he retired, went to Tanzania and set up a radiology residency program in a Kilimanjaro Christian Medical Center, 450-bed hospital in Tanzania. So I started going there, teaching residents. A friend of mine and I, Mike Nelson and I, we were presenting at the Pan-African Congress of Radiology. And as we're sitting there, we thought we should figure out a way to honor this guy, Helmut Diefenthal. And my friend Mike said, what if we built a cancer center?
I was privileged to travel to Africa with Jim Roelofs and Dr. Mike Nelson from the University of Minnesota Hospitals. They were willing to make sure people have adequate access to radiology because it'll make all the difference in the world with the other medical modalities that are trying to be present in the country. Now they have a new radiology building and expanded services, and I think Jim and Dr. Mike Nelson should be and are extremely proud of the seeds they planted and the work they put together to bring that mission to Tanzania and the people of that country.
Their commitment to their community is just admirable, very admirable. And Jim served on the board of the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation for 9 years. And what Jim really brought to the board of both the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation and community giving was this genuine sense of servant leadership. He wanted to be a part of supporting this larger sense of community, both at the local level, bringing together many nonprofits to support good things in the Brainerd Lakes area. And when community giving was formed in 2015, Jim was one of the founding board members of community giving because he, I know, could see a bigger picture of community. And he was a leader in helping people see that this larger sense of community, that we could do more together than we could apart.
I think it's amazing what can happen in a community when people just step forward and start looking for other folks who energize the whole project and get together and make it go.
Bloom where you're planted. Find things that fit your skill set or your interests and get involved.
What most people need to know about Jim Roelofs and Mary Lynn is you need to get to know them better, and I hope you have the opportunity to.